the report that came on out that Mr. Hur did deliver in regards to Joe Biden and the documents case, because as you probably can imagine, and I'm not the only one by any means, this stinks, and there's a lot of things we need to focus on and really take to task here. And one of the truth, Hur does deserve a lot of criticism. So RObert Hur delivers the report here. A special counsel investigating President Biden said in a report released on Thursday that Mr. Biden had willfully retained and disclosed classified material after leaving the vice presidency in 2017, but concluded that no criminal charges are warranted, period. No criminal charges are warranted, period. The evidence does not establish Mr. Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, said Mr. Hur, a former Trump Justice Department official appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland in January 2023 to lead the inquiry after classified files were found in the garbage and living areas of Mr. Biden's home in Delaware and in his former office in Washington. In recounting his interviews with the president, Mr. Hur portrayed him as unable to remember key dates of the time in the Obama White House. Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview with him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, Mr. Hur wrote. He cited Mr. Biden's age by the time he would leave office, either in 2025 or 2029, as an adding factor. It would be difficult to convince a jury that a former president well into his 80s was guilty of a felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. Mr. Hur added, suggesting the president had flouted the law, even as he concluded that prosecutors did not have the evidence to prove that in court. The report uses highly prejudicial language to describe a commonplace occurrence among witnesses, a lack of recall of years of events. This is Biden's lawyers wrote back, adding, the language is not supported by the facts, nor is it appropriately used by the federal prosecutor in this context. Mr. Hur's report was made public. Trump sent out the image of Biden's garage to his campaign email, along with the claim, unsupported by any evidence, that he cooperated far more than Mr. Biden. In fact, Mr. Hur noted that Mr. Biden had fully cooperated with the investigation, allowing investigators unimpeded access to his properties. Mr. Trump has been accused of misleading the government for months over the hundreds of highly classified documents in his possession and having his personal staff move boxes as officials were seeking their return. In the report's introduction, Mr. Hur suggested that Mr. Biden's cooperation with the investigators was a factor in his decision not to bring charges. Unlike Mr. Biden, Mr. Trump refused to return the materials he retained. So more on this when I do come back pretty much the rest of the hour. So let me go back, just finish reading what this article here is. Unlike Mr. Biden, Mr. Trump refused to return the documents he retained after being given multiple chances to return the documents to avoid prosecution. This is what Hur wrote. Hur was bound by Justice Department legal policy that makes sitting presidents immune from being charged with crimes in office. But he said that his decision not to pursue criminal charges would have been the same even if regulations had allowed him to indict Mr. Biden. All right. So basically what you have is a hit piece. You have Hur writing a hit piece on Biden. And it's because he couldn't find anything on him to charge him with a crime. I want to repeat the points from the beginning of this article. No criminal charges are warranted. That's what he said. He also then came on back and made the point. He said the evidence does not establish Mr. Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That very clear there. And then at the very end there, I made this is all out of the New York Times. He said he said his decision not to pursue criminal charges would have been the same even if the regulations had allowed him to indict Mr. Biden. So he did not find anything. He said, it might stink, and yeah, he did it, but Biden was very forthcoming. He met with him, gave all the documents back and stuff like that. This stuff about him going after his mental acumen is just, it's kind of, this was by intent. Let's just be very clear here. This was by intent. And I want to, I guess the first place I want to go with this is Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland, you freaking idiot. I am tired. What if you are listening in Chicago, you have only been listening for a few months. Hi. One of the things you're going to learn about me is I think the greatest mistake the Democratic Party has made in the last 25, 30 years is that we've become betrothed to the moderate Democrats. These people that wake up every day and say, how do I get the Republicans to like me? That's not a political party. Now, I know moderate Democrats who are undeniable Democrats. The governor of my state of Minnesota is one right now, Governor Walz. He's a moderate, but he's a Democrat. And proof of that is in that legislation that you just put forward this last year, which was very progressive. He signed off on it because it was a Democratic agenda. Now, I've said there's a lot of moderate Democrats who would not have done that, And the reason why is because I guess they want to sit at the lunch table with the Republicans. The Chris Hayes put out this incredible statistic. Bill Clinton was investigated by Ken Starr, who was a Republican. George W. Bush was investigated by Patrick Fitzgerald, who was a Republican. Hillary Clinton was investigated by James Comey, who was a Republican. Donald Trump was investigated by Robert Mueller. He was a Republican. Joe Biden was investigated by Robert Hur, who is a Republican. That's right. And you see, this just highlights the stupidity of Merrick Garland and the moderate Democratic mentality. Because the first thing they think about is, how do I look neutral? How do I look middle of the road? I know, I'll find the most conservative Republican to do the investigation. Then when he finds nothing wrong, it will make us look good. Unless he basically has an agenda, like Hur does. He had an agenda. And he couldn't find anything, so he basically decided to put in some inflammatory comments to make it seem like something else was going on. And Merrick Garland, the hell with you, dude. You should have known this. I am tired of the moderate Republican mentality that I'm going to go for the freaking participation ribbon as opposed to first place. And that is a problem. Is you're already saying, well, as long as we can work with the other side, we'll take the loss. No, you shouldn't be that way. And I'm not saying you put in someone so blatantly biased that you couldn't possibly get any kind of closure on it. But you don't know. One of the things you notice here, the Republicans don't put Democrats in charge of their investigations. Why? Because they don't have to. There's this stupid moderate Democrat mentality. We've got to take the high road. How's that doing for you? Because the last I've seen, the last 30 years, Democrats have gotten freaking pantsed because the moderate Democrats have sold them out left and right.